Good morning students, here we start with the gross anatomy of the segment 2, kidneys, in which we are going to discuss exclusively the anterior and posterior surface. These two surfaces are many times asked as short notes or MCQs or 1 mark question answers. Now here we start with the gross anatomy of the kidneys in which each kidney will have upper end and lower end. Each kidney will have anterior and posterior surface. And each kidney will have two borders, lateral border, medial border. So anterior posterior surface, upper and lower end, medial and lateral border. Now henceforth, posterior surface of the kidneys, we are going to memorize the entire posterior surface with the help of diagrams. And as I keep on mentioning, this posterior surface is many times asked as short questions, or maybe it is asked in Viva, or maybe it is asked as short notes. Now here, we just basically draw outline. This is the outline of both the kidneys, because we are going to describe the posterior surface, relations of posterior surface of right and left kidney. So this is the basic outline of right kidney. Over here I am going to draw the basic outline of the left kidney. Right and left. We know that right is at a lower level than the left. In the last segment we have discussed. So here, this is the right kidney and this is the left kidney. Now the entire posterior surface of both the kidneys will be non-peritoneal. So remember, the posterior surface, this is the anatomy of kidneys, posterior surface will be non-peritoneal. This is one point. Second point will be, the posterior surface of both the kidneys will be divided into upper and lower part, upper part, lower part. So therefore we distinguish into upper and lower parts. Now the posterior surface of both the kidneys, we are going to draw simultaneously, right and left. I hope this is also visible here. So right and left kidneys, both posterior surface, upper part. 3 points you have to remember, only 3 points. And those points are, number 1, diaphragm taking origin from medial and lateral arcuate ligament. So here we are going to show medial and lateral arcuate ligament. This is medial arcuate ligament, this is lateral arcuate ligament. Over here also, same way we are going to show medial and lateral arcuate ligament, medial and lateral arcuate ligament. So diaphragm taking origin from medial and lateral arcuate ligament, that is point number 1, and hence we mention here, this is the medial arcuate ligament, point number 1. This is also point number 1, lateral arcuate ligament, diaphragm taking origin from medial and lateral arcuate ligaments. Remember, posterior surface of the relations of the kidneys, upper and lower part. This is the upper part we are describing. So this first point we have finished. Second point, what lies above the diaphragm? The costodiaphragmatic recess, which we have discussed exclusively in our lecture of pleura, gross anatomy of pleura. I have discussed with you what is costodiaphragmatic recess. So the same costodiaphragmatic recess, now here with the help of orange color, if I just fill this, here we can show the costodiaphragmatic recess, and we can mark it simply as the costodiaphragmatic recess. This is point number 2. Here I will mention point number 2. This I will mention point number 1. So the costodiaphragmatic recess respectively of the right and left sides. Third point, relations of posterior surface of the kidneys upper part with respect to ribs. Now many times this question is very important. It is asked in MCQs. Left kidney, since it is at an upper level than the right one, it is related with 2 ribs, 11th and 12th rib. So therefore here, if I draw both the ribs, please come on this, I hope it is visible, yeah. So here, I shall draw, this is 11 and this will be 12. And here, we can mark 11, 12th rib in case of left kidney. In case of right one, here we shall mark only 12th rib. So therefore, here we can mark this as number 3, point number 3, relation number 3 in the upper part, posterior surface of both the kidneys, the ribs. But how many ribs? On the right side 12th rib, left side 11th and 12th rib. Left side 11th and 12th rib, and on the right side only one, 12th rib, because right kidney is at a lower level. Many times it is asked in Viva. 3 points we have completed. So posterior relations of the kidneys, upper part, 3 points. What are they? 3 structures are in relation with the upper part of posterior surface of both the kidneys, and they are medial and lateral arcuate ligament, medial and lateral arcuate ligaments. Diaphragm taking origin from medial and lateral arcuate ligaments, medial and lateral arcuate ligaments. Point number 2, costodiaphragmatic recess, costodiaphragmatic recess, costodiaphragmatic recess of their respective sides. And point number 3, ribs. Now these ribs are 11th and 12th rib in case of the 11th and 12th rib in case of left side kidney, and 12th rib only in case of right side kidney. So here we finish our upper segment posterior relations of the kidney, 3 points. Very clear. It is basically very simple. And costodiaphragmatic recess, remember, it is present lower than the 12th rib only at one point, that is costovertebral angle of both the sides. Costovertebral angle of both the sides, that I have discussed with you in pleura. So remember, that is the costodiaphragmatic recess. It will be present at a lower level than the 12th rib, below the 12th rib only at costovertebral angle. Otherwise it will be lying above the 12th rib. Remember that. So therefore, here even you can show this as above the 12th rib. Here this is the costodiaphragmatic recess. So even this will be the costodiaphragmatic recess, the space. So all in all, posterior relations of both the kidneys, upper part, 3 points, that is the medial and lateral arcuate ligaments. Number 2, costodiaphragmatic recesses of respective sides. Number 3, there will be presence of 12th rib on right side and 11th and 12th rib on the left side. Now what about lower half? In the lower half, very simple, we go according to the diagram, memorize the diagrams, it will be very simple and very easy. Here we show, first we complete here, where my hand is there, we show the right crus. This is the right crus of diaphragm, and this is the left crus of diaphragm. Now in the gross anatomy lectures of diaphragm, I have discussed with you, the right crus is at a lower level than the left crus. Remember that. Right crus of diaphragm will be at a lower level than the left crus. So this is the right crus, this is the left crus. This point here, this is the median arcuate ligament, median. And these two are medial arcuate ligaments. So behind the medial arcuate ligaments, we show musculature, and the muscles which we show here, we will show the muscles as psoas major. So these are the psoas major muscles of both the sides. So here we show the psoas major muscle. This is the psoas major. And this psoas major muscle is limited to behind and lower side of medial arcuate ligament. So therefore, here we name this as psoas major muscle, and this psoas major muscle is covered by a fascia which is called psoas fascia. Now lateral to psoas major muscle, well, lateral arcuate ligaments are there, the two lateral arcuate ligaments are there. Below that, we draw another muscle, and that muscle will be the quadratus lumborum muscle. So here we draw this muscle, here this is the basic outline, and here we show this muscle as the quadratus lumborum muscle. And here we write this muscle, quadratus lumborum muscle, which is covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia will cover the quadratus lumborum muscle. Lateral to quadratus lumborum muscle, one more muscle we will draw, and that muscle will be transversus abdominis muscle. See here, I am going to draw this as transversus abdominis muscle. On this side also, I am going to draw this as transversus abdominis muscle. Therefore, now, once I mark this, this is transversus abdominis muscle, which is covered by its fascia, which is known as fascia transversalis. So three muscles are lying posterior to the kidneys in the lower part of the kidneys. Lower part of the kidneys, posterior surface. What are the relations in the lower part of the kidney posterior surface? Three muscles, medial to lateral, psoas major covered by psoas fascia, quadratus lumborum covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and transversus abdominis muscle covered by which fascia? Fascia transversalis. So these are the three muscles which are related posterior surface of the kidneys in the lower half. Lower half, posterior surface of both the kidneys, three muscles, psoas major, quadratus lumborum and transversus abdominis muscles. And all the three are covered by their respective fascia. Psoas major covered by psoas fascia, then quadratus lumborum covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and the transversus abdominis muscle covered by fascia transversalis. So psoas major, quadratus lumborum and transversus abdominis muscle are directly related to posterior surface of lower part of the kidneys. Now there are certain vessels and nerves. That vessels and nerves, simply with the help of line diagram we have to memorize. What are they? So the vessels and nerves will be first from superior to inferior. They will pass downwards and laterally. And where exactly they will pass? Where my fingers are there. Anterior surface of quadratus lumborum muscle. Since quadratus lumborum is covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, so between thoracolumbar fascia, that is anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and quadratus lumborum, between these two layers, between anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia and this muscle quadratus lumborum, there will be several structures. 5 structures we are going to draw. They will pass downwards and laterally, superior to inferior. Here we go. We draw the first structure. Over here also we draw the first structure, and this structure, subcostal vein. So we mention this as subcostal vein, structure number 1. Then structure number 2, below that artery. So here we show this artery, and the name of this artery will be the subcostal artery. So here this is the subcostal artery, structure number 2. Structure number 3, we show subcostal nerve. So here we are going to show this as the subcostal nerve. Subcostal nerve. 3 structures, now remaining 2. Below subcostal, remember subcostal is T12. Level of subcostal is T12. So subcostal vein, subcostal artery, subcostal nerve, superior to inferior, anterior surface of quadratus lumborum, and posterior surface of the lower part of the kidneys. These are the relations of posterior surface of lower part of the kidney. Now 2 more structures we have to add. Same, they are nerves only. One arrow, iliohypogastric. Another last arrow, ilioinguinal. Same way, iliohypogastric, ilioinguinal, and we name this as iliohypogastric nerve, structure number 4, and this as structure number 5, ilioinguinal nerve. These are the 5 structures: subcostal vessels, subcostal nerve, then iliohypogastric nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, which are in relation to the anterior surface of quadratus lumborum muscle, but posterior surface of the lower part of the kidneys. So these are the final structures and the outline of kidney. Now if I want to show the outline of the kidney, here this is the outline of the kidney. Once again I am drawing, this is the outline of the kidney here, and all the structures are posterior to the kidney, and here also this is the outline of the kidney. If I draw on this side also, this is the outline of the kidney on this side also, so that it is visible that here these structures are lying behind the kidney. Very clear. Now if you memorize both the structure, both the kidneys, line diagram, it will be much easier to memorize what are the structures related posterior surface of the kidneys. Posterior surface of the kidneys we have divided in upper half and lower half. Lower half, the 3 muscles covered by their fascia and the structures, that is vein, artery, nerve, subcostal, and 2 nerves, iliohypogastric, ilioinguinal. In the upper half, 3 points we have remembered. So these are the posterior relations of both the kidneys, and remember the posterior relations, posterior surface of both the kidneys is totally non-peritoneal, but they are related with all these structures. Now we come to applied anatomy of posterior surface. Applied anatomy of posterior surface. Now in the applied anatomy of posterior surface, if you recollect, please come on this side here. One very important posterior relations of the kidney, one very important point, the renal angle. Now in renal angle, try and understand this concept. Renal angle, applied anatomy of posterior surface with respect to renal angle. Here, if I show this as T12, I hope this much is visible, yes. And here, if I show this as the 12th rib. So T12 and 12th rib, very simple. Now with the help of line diagram, I am going to show the kidneys. So here I will draw both the side. Now these are the kidneys of both the sides. Then I am going to show erector spinae muscle. Then I am going to show the erector spinae muscle. So this is the lateral border of erector spinae of one side, this is the lateral border of erector spinae of other side. Here, this lateral border I will just show on this side. So this much will be the lateral border of erector spinae. And here I am going to name this as erector spinae. This is also erector spinae. Remember, this erector spinae group of muscle is a very thick muscle. This entire muscle here, erector spinae, in the back. So we have drawn this diagram from the back. What is renal angle? We start with renal angle. That is the angulation or the angle which is produced between the lower border of the 12th rib and lateral border of erector spinae muscle. So this is the lateral border of erector spinae muscle. Here also this is the lateral border of erector spinae muscle. This is the lower border of 12th rib. This is the lower border of 12th rib. So on either side, the angle which is produced, now here, this is the angle which is produced between the lower border of 12th rib. This is the angle. Lower border of 12th rib and lateral border of erector spinae is called renal angle. On this side, lower border of 12th rib and lateral border of erector spinae, this angle is called renal angle. One mark question answer, what is renal angle? Now, we move further. Why we have considered renal angle? Because this is the renal angle clinically where when the patient complains of renal colic pain, the pain usually starts from renal angle and then it is directed downwards towards the lower part. So, renal colic pain will always start from renal angle, number one. Number two, during retroperitoneal surgery to expose the kidneys, when the surgeon is performing any exposure of the kidneys retroperitoneally from the back, the incision is always given from renal angle. The line of incision commences for the surgeon from renal angle. So surgeon prefers the line of incision from the renal angle, then the incision is given downwards to expose the kidneys retroperitoneally. That is why this renal angle is very important, and that is why we are considering this renal angle. That is the commencement of the surgery, the line of incision from this angle, renal angle. And remember, the renal angle is the angle which is produced between lower border of 12th rib and lateral border of erector spinae muscle. Now here we are going to discuss third important point. Remember that sometimes what happens will be 12th rib, the size of 12th rib in certain individuals will be smaller. The size of the 12th ribs in certain individuals will be smaller than that of the lateral border of erector spinae muscle. That means the 12th rib will not pass beyond the lateral border of erector spinae. The size is very small, remember that. In such cases, what happens is that sometimes when the ribs are counted from below, then 11th rib will be mistaken for 12th rib. 11th rib will be mistaken for 12th rib. In which cases, in those cases when the size of 12th rib will be slightly smaller, that means the 12th rib will not pass beyond the lateral border of erector spinae muscle. In those cases, sometimes by mistake, 11th rib is confused for 12th rib. So what will happen here? There are equal chances during surgery. In those cases, there are equal chances of damage to pleura. And why this thing occurs? Because we know that the pleura, costodiaphragmatic pleura, is only present below the 12th rib at costovertebral angle. Pleura, here, if I show the pleura at this point, then the costodiaphragmatic recess of the pleura will be present below the 12th rib only at this point, that is costovertebral angle, and then it will be present above the renal angle. Here it is present above the renal angle. This is how the pleura is reflected. So that means the pleura is present below the costal margin only at costovertebral angle, but it does not encroach here at the renal angle. No, the pleura is not present at renal angle. Here also the same way, this pleura at the costovertebral angle, but it will be present above the renal angle. So therefore, as the pleura is not encroaching here at renal angle, but it is encroaching at costovertebral angle. And in those cases when 11th rib is confused as 12th rib, and when the incision is given at the renal angle, that means equal chances of damage to the pleura, equal chances of perforation of the pleura will be incised, and accidentally the pleura will be damaged, and there will be several complications occurring within the lungs, because air will percolate inside the pleura because of damage to the pleura. Accidentally the surgeon has incised the pleura because the surgeon has confused 11th rib as 12th rib. In those cases when the size of 12th rib will be smaller, and when the ribs are counted from below, in those cases only there are many chances that the pleura might be damaged because of this explanation. What is this explanation? Pleura will be present below the costal margin at costovertebral angle only. That means it is encroaching here. But pleura will not encroach at renal angle. But in those cases where 11th rib is present here, of course. So if 11th rib is confused as 12th rib, and if incision is given at renal angle of the 11th rib, considering 11th rib as 12th rib, then there are equal chances of perforation to the pleura and complications to the lungs. If you understand this concept, that is the applied anatomy of the renal angle. That is why renal angle is so important from so many different dimensions. This is the basic explanation. This is the basic concepts of the renal angle. Now, one more applied anatomical feature. When the diaphragm, if we see on this side here I have explained that this is the medial arcuate ligament, this is the lateral arcuate ligament. When the diaphragm, where my hand is there, when the diaphragm does not take origin from lateral arcuate ligament, what will happen will be, when the diaphragm does not take origin from these lateral arcuate ligaments, either on one side or both the sides, then there will be a costovertebral trigone which will be produced. Many times it is asked in one mark question answer, what is costovertebral trigone? When the diaphragm does not take origin from lateral arcuate ligament, then a costovertebral trigone is produced, and in those cases, many times the kidneys will herniate into the thorax. The kidneys will herniate into the thorax through costovertebral trigone. And in costovertebral trigone is the condition when the diaphragm will not take origin from lateral arcuate ligament, and there is a gap, and because of that the kidneys may herniate into the thorax. That is the second important point of applied anatomy. Now we start with the relations of anterior surface of both the kidneys. Anterior surface of both the kidneys, we start the relation. Now in the anterior surface, please come on this side here. I will create some space over here, and remember that the anterior surface of both the kidneys, there will be some peritoneal surface and some non-peritoneal surface. Peritoneal and non-peritoneal surface both. And this anterior surface of both the kidneys is always, mostly, it is asked in MCQs and one mark question answer. It is a very important topic, anterior surface. What are the relations? So first of all, we draw the kidneys. Both the kidneys here we show. So this is the right side kidney, and on this side here we shall draw the left side kidney. So right and left, right is at a lower level than the left, and left is slightly longer and narrower, we know that. So here I am going to mention this as the right kidney, and here I am going to mention this as the left kidney. Now, what are the relations of anterior surface of right and left kidney? Remember, as I told you, the right and left kidneys are covered by certain peritoneal areas, certain non-peritoneal areas. So, viscera which are related to the anterior surface of right and left kidneys, certain viscera are peritoneal, certain viscera will produce non-peritoneal relation. That is very important. With the help of diagram, we are going to memorize everything. So, we start with right kidney, anterior surface. Now each kidney, remember before we start, each kidney will have upper and lower end, upper and lower end. And each kidney will have medial border present as hilum and lateral border which is convex. Now anterior surface of the right kidney, we start with the right, it has totally 5 impressions. Remember 5 impressions for anterior surface of the right kidney. We start with the suprarenal gland, right suprarenal gland. We will take the use of all the chalks, all the colors. So here we show this as the right suprarenal impression present on the medial side of upper end and extending at the upper part of the medial border. This is the right suprarenal impression. Simply remember the diagrammatic impressions. So right suprarenal impression present at the upper end of the kidney and extending till the upper part of the medial border. And this is totally non-peritoneal. So here I am going to mention this as non-peritoneal. This impression is non-peritoneal. Impression number 1 covered by right suprarenal gland. Impression number 2. Now impression number 2 here covering the anterior surface of the medial border or the hilum of the kidney, and this is known as duodenal impression. And this duodenal impression is totally, this duodenal impression is related with the second part of duodenum. Remember, it is related with the second part of duodenum, duodenal impression, and it is totally non-peritoneal impression. Then we go with the anterior 2/3 where my hand is there, covering the lateral part of the anterior 2/3 of lateral part of anterior surface of the right kidney, that is hepatic impression. So here we cover this as with the hepatic impression. Here we show this much is hepatic impression. So here this level is our hepatic impression. So this hepatic impression is related with right lobe of the liver. But remember, there is a pouch which we have discussed in the peritoneum, that is hepatorenal pouch of Morrison. So that hepatorenal pouch of Morrison is related here. The right subhepatic space or hepatorenal pouch of Morrison is related with this hepatic impression. This hepatic impression is totally peritoneal. This is peritoneal. Why we need to remember peritoneal, non-peritoneal? Because these are the MCQs, these are the 1 mark question answers. Which impressions on the right anterior surface of the kidney will be peritoneal and which impressions are non-peritoneal? Now we are left with 2 more impressions. Remember, I told you that total there are 5 impressions on anterior surface of the right kidney. Now here, lower part, we divide into lateral and medial. Laterally, we will show it is covered by impression of the right colic flexure. So it is covered by the impression of the right colic flexure, and here we show this is the impression of right colic flexure. And this right colic flexure impression here, it is non-peritoneal. And now the last space which is left here, this space here, I will show this impression here, this which is present as jejunal impression. So this is jejunal impression. Coils of jejunum are related to this space, and it is totally peritoneal impression. So here this is totally peritoneal impression. So we have finished the impressions on anterior surface of the right kidney. Total 5 impressions are there. Out of those 5 impressions, 2 are peritoneal. Which 2 are peritoneal? Hepatic impression, jejunal impression. Hepatic, jejunal, hepatic and jejunal, they are peritoneal impressions. The remaining are non-peritoneal. Which are non-peritoneal? Right suprarenal gland, second part of duodenum here, and the right colic flexure. So suprarenal impression, duodenal impression, and the right colic flexure. These 3 are totally non-peritoneal. This is how you have to memorize the anterior relations of the right kidney, and so many short answer questions are cleared by this technique of memorizing the diagram. Now we go to the left side here. On the left side, anterior surface of the left kidney entire, I hope this is also visible. Okay. We start with the upper end same way, like the left suprarenal gland. So in the left suprarenal gland here, This is the left suprarenal gland impression, and this left suprarenal gland impression is non-peritoneal. But before we start, I will make it clear that total number of impressions on anterior surface of the left kidney are 6, and total number of impressions on anterior surface of the right kidney we discussed were 5. So here 6 impressions. We start with left suprarenal gland impression, that is totally non-peritoneal. Then left side, just left to this, we draw a small triangular patch for oblong shaped patch for splenic impression. So here we give this as splenic impression, impression number 2, and this splenic impression is totally peritoneal, splenic impression. And this is related with obviously the renal impression present on spleen. Remember spleen? We have discussed spleen. So renal impression present on the spleen is related with this splenic impression, which is totally peritoneal. Then the angle between the left suprarenal gland and splenic impression, this angle here, we will name this angle as the gastric angle. So this angle, the name given will be gastric impression. Not angle, but gastric impression, because it is related with the stomach. But remember, this is separated from posterior inferior surface of stomach with the cavity by the cavity of lesser sac. So here, in between the left suprarenal gland and splenic impression is the triangular shaped gastric impression, which is separated from the stomach by lesser sac. This is gastric impression, totally peritoneal. So here we mark this as peritoneal. Now we are left with remaining 3 impressions. 3 impressions across the middle where my hand is there. You stretch a rectangular shaped impression, and that rectangular shaped impression here, if I stretch in this way, then this impression becomes pancreatic impression. So it is related with the posterior surface of the body of the pancreas, pancreatic impression. And this pancreatic impression over here, this will be totally non-peritoneal. So it is non-peritoneal impression. Now we are left with the lower pole, lower half, in which we will divide into lateral and medial. In the lower half, as we divide into lateral and medial, first the medial. We have seen medially here, jejunal impression on the right side, same way medially here, jejunal impression on the medial side. So here we show there will be this as jejunal impression, and this jejunal impression will be totally peritoneal. Jejunal impression on the medial side, lower part. Now we are left with the lateral side. Lower part, lateral side, anterior surface of the left kidney here, where my finger is there. This will be totally for left colic flexure. So here, if I mark this totally as the left colic flexure, this is how I mark left colic flexure. This is the impression. And this left colic flexure is totally non-peritoneal impression, non-peritoneal. So here we have the 6 impressions. Out of the 6 impressions present on anterior surface of the left kidney, 3 are peritoneal, 3 are non-peritoneal. The peritoneal will be splenic impression, gastric impression, jejunal impression. Splenic, gastric, jejunal. Splenic, gastric and jejunal impressions are peritoneal. The remaining are non-peritoneal. Which are non-peritoneal? Suprarenal gland, left suprarenal gland. Then we have pancreatic impression, and then we are having the left colic impression, which is non-peritoneal. Please remember, please memorize. Many times it is asked in MCQs on 1 mark question answer. Now, final. This is the line of demarcation between gastric impression and splenic impression. You can easily trace this with the help of this finger here. And this line here, if I just show with this white chalk, this line of impression between the gastric impression and splenic impression is known as the line for attachment of lienorenal ligament. So many times we have discussed this ligament, lienorenal ligament. So this is attached here. This impression of lienorenal ligament is present here between the gastric impression and splenic impression. Simply by memorizing these anterior surfaces of right and left kidneys, so many points will be clear. So please try and memorize these diagrams. So 6 total impressions on anterior surface of the left kidney, 3 peritoneal, 3 non-peritoneal. Very easy, very simple, do not complicate. Now upper and lower end. Remember, 2 points of upper and lower end. The upper ends will be 2.5 centimeter away from the median plane. Upper ends will be 2.5 centimeter away from the median plane, 2.5 centimeter. Please note down, the upper ends will be 2.5 centimeter away from the median plane, and the lower ends will be 7.5 centimeters from the median plane. The lower ends of both the poles of the kidney, lower ends of both the kidneys will be 7.5 centimeter away from the median line. 2.5 centimeter, 7.5 centimeter. That means the long axis is directed. In the beginning, I had discussed with you the long axis of each kidney is directed downwards and laterally. So this is how the kidneys are directed, downwards and laterally. The upper ends 2.5 centimeter away from the median plane. Lower ends of both the kidneys will be 7.5 centimeter away from the median end. And the lower ends, one more point, this lower ends will be 2.5 centimeter above the highest point of iliac crest. So above the highest point of iliac crest, the lower end will be 2.5 centimeter above. Now we come to hilum. This is the hilum. This is a viva question. Many times in dissection, when you trace both the kidneys, you have to identify which is right, which is left kidney with the help of structures present at the hilum. Remember, so identification of kidneys in dissection, which is right, which is left, based upon the structures present at the hilum. At the hilum, anterior to posterior, the following structures will be there. What are the following structures? First, there will be renal vein. Second structure, there will be renal arteries. We are going from anterior to posterior. This is just a line diagram to just memorize. So vein, first we write here the vein, then artery, this is the artery, and then renal pelvis. So the last structure will be the renal pelvis. To memorize structures present at the hilum of the kidneys, anterior to posterior, renal vein, renal artery, renal pelvis. So when we take kidneys in our hand, we locate the hilum. Hilum is present at the medial border, and at the medial border hilum, anterior to posterior, renal veins, then renal arteries and renal pelvis. So vein, artery, pelvis, anterior to posterior, renal vein, renal artery and renal pelvis. These are the structures that are arranged at the hilum of the kidney, anterior to posterior. But remember one thing, during dissection, that branch of renal artery and tributary of renal vein, one branch of renal artery and one tributary of renal vein will always be present posterior to renal pelvis. Do not confuse. So a branch of renal artery and tributary of renal vein is always found posterior to the renal pelvis. So these are the structures which are present at the hilum, anterior to posterior, with respect to renal vein, renal artery, renal pelvis. But a branch of renal artery and a tributary of renal vein is found posterior to the renal pelvis also. Here we end our second segment of the gross anatomy of the kidneys. Next, coming up will be the third segment of the gross anatomy of kidneys. Thank you very much.